This is a story about my little sister's experience with the entity that haunted our Florida home. I myself have never experienced anything in that house, but I think you'll find her encounters very creepy. For my sister's privacy, I will refer to her as Liz. This all took place in Florida when I was 15 and Liz was 11. Liz shared a room with me and our youngest sister. She slept on the top bunk while I slept across the room in my own bed. I liked to entertain my sisters by telling scary stories or reciting the whole script to one of our favorite movies. Liz always had a habit of calling me out whenever I told a scary story. She didn't believe in ghosts, which makes the whole thing 10 times weirder. The first incident was probably around July. As I remember, it was pretty hot. I had been asleep maybe 3 hours when I was shaken awake by Liz. She asked why I was standing by her bed and staring at her. Having just been woken up, I was confused. I no longer sleepwalked, so I had no idea why she would think I was staring at her all creepy like. I got her back to bed and I sat with her until she fell back to sleep. Second incident was maybe 4 weeks ago. While eating breakfast, Liz asked Mom who the man in the hat was. Mom brushed her off, but I questioned her further. She told me that late last night she was woke up to find someone standing next to her bed, peering at her through the safety bars. She described the feature as a man wearing a fedora-type hat and was wearing all black. He was very shadowy and disappeared when Liz blinked. The third and most terrifying incident happened a few days after. I remember waking up after a particularly terrifying nightmare. I looked over to my sister's bed and noticed that Liz was sitting bolt upright, staring at me. I asked her what was wrong, and she answered with fear apparent in her voice. The man in the hat was watching you sleep. That was the last and most terrifying incident I can remember. I don't believe he appeared again. We had our house blessed twice, so that may have deterred him. What do you think it was? I know we do not have any dead relatives that wore hats, so I'm confused as to what the entity was. To this day, I believe I met something supernatural in 1975. Whenever I think about what I experienced that night, goosebumps just mushroomed on my limbs and body. I was then living with my parents, Selangor. I had night classes for some days of the week, and I used to drive my faithful Datsun to attend these classes. I could still remember that it was on April 4th, 1975, a Friday. My class was over at 9:30 p.m. As it was a Friday, I joined a few of my classmates at Section 5 for a bite before going home. I left to go back home at 11 p.m., and the only way back through the old road that passed through Canching Pass, a stretch of winding uphill road just before Templar Park. I reached the bottom of the pass at about 11:40 p.m., and I spotted a woman in white carrying a red bundle that appeared to be an infant on the opposite side of the road at a bus stop. My immediate thought was, you're not going to get a bus. The last bus was at 10 p.m., and there are no more buses after that. The road going through the pass was a single lane narrow. There wasn't any car following me, and certainly none overtook me during the 2 to 3 kilometer climb up the pass. I reached the top of the pass and was on the descent when I suddenly spotted the same woman in white carrying the red bundle. And this time round, it gives me goosebumps again, even at 30. She was on my side of the road, and she was attempting to wave at me to stop my car for her. I stepped on the accelerator, but couldn't resist a glance to pick up a reflection of her through my rear view mirror. But I saw nothing. There was a morbid fear at that time that she was already seated in the rear seat of my car. It could have been an attack of goosebumps, then, as I certainly felt an eerie presence and an instant drop of the temperature in the car. I kept praying, but just didn't have the guts to look back to verify whether she was there. It was such a relief when I saw the first few houses of the town. It was only then that I dared to look at the rear seat. When I saw the rear seat, I got a chill through my soul. Then and even now, there was a white towel on the seat, an object that certainly was not mine. Hi, let's start with the fact that somehow from a kid somewhere I started to get interested in paranormal things. I read a lot of scary stories and looked at pictures of ghosts, you know what's going on. But I would like to tell you about a situation that still gives me goosebumps when I just think about it. And I swear that this story is 100% true. And if you would like me to tell you something else, please write. Okay, so this situation may have been in 2013 or maybe 2012. I was 12 years old. I was alone in the room, sitting in a chair next to the desk. The lamp was on, and it cast a shadow right on the wall in front of me. Behind me there was an entrance to the balcony. Then next to the wall there was a door to the room. And this is important information, because these are the only entrances to the room, and you will find out why it is important in a moment. All I did was just stare at my shadow and think it was okay. Quietly, nothing was going on, and no one was coming into the room. And at some point it happened. A shadow came from my left side. The figure was tall and thin. I remember it. It came from where only my bed was. No entrance whatsoever. She stood literally behind me, looking my way, and then walked away, walking towards the desk. I was paralyzed with fear for a long time, and didn't know what to do. I don't know if it's people, shadows, or if it's a ghost. It was just terrible after the character appeared out of nowhere. But that's not all. There are suspicions that there is something in my house. If you want more, write. Okay, so all of these things happened in my now ex-boyfriend's house. I would spend a lot of time at his house overnight, as his neighborhood had more things to do and his bedroom was more private than mine. We were both around 19 to 21 during this time. First, I should mention that his family practices Yoruba religion and would leave water and offering for individual deities. They were very in tune to that aspect of the universe. I had also felt growing up that I could feel things and spirits, not necessarily communicate, but I could feel them and acknowledge them. If I didn't have a feeling, they were very dangerous. I was generally chill and not scared as long as I knew I wasn't doing something to upset them. Vice versa, I would have the thought of, oh, that's a ghost, and kind of move on. In his house, his bedroom had a door that led down a flight of stairs into the backyard. Imagine a door 2 feet in front of the bottom step, and also into the basement. Basically, you come down the stairs, do a U-turn, bam, you're looking at the basement. He has a washer and dryer down there, and further in was storage. It was dark, damp, concrete floor. Not a place you want to hang out in. Occasionally, we would go down to get the laundry, and I always found myself looking into the back of the basement and just knowing I was not welcome to pass further than the dryer. Even at the dryer, I can only explain it was clear words popping into my head. You're not supposed to be here. It was my own voice, and I would always leave quickly, and sometimes give a nod of respect towards the back of the basement, and avoided going down as much as I could. Additionally, sometimes when in bed late at night, I would hear creaking on the stairs. At first, I summed it up to an old house, settling and changing with temperature, but every time, I could not deny that it was a distinct sound of footsteps. It would always stop by the door to the basement, and I would stare at the door waiting for it to open. It never did. One day we were sitting in the kitchen table with his mom and dad, and I don't remember how it got brought up, but I mentioned that I always felt unwelcome and like I wasn't supposed to be in the basement. I also mentioned that the words, "You are not supposed to be here," would repeat in my head. His mom and dad shot a wide-eyed glance at each other, which made me say, "What?" And his mom said very matter-of-factly, "There is a ghost of an old man who stays down there." I immediately felt validated and got chills, and described exactly where I felt unwelcome, and she confirmed that he does hang out in the very back of the basement. She also told me that she will leave a shot of whiskey for him when his activity picks up, as he apparently is cranky by nature, and it seems to calm him down for a few weeks. She said he was harmless, but I already felt that. He just didn't like me in his space. She left some whiskey for him the next day. I then spoke to him, and somewhat told him who I was. The feeling of unwelcomeness never left, and I would still hear creeping on the stairs, but I made sure to acknowledge him when I went to the basement and never went into his space at the back of the basement. A bonus tidbit, his sister's room on the same level, and when she was a kid, she used to have nightmares of a girl crying in her room, and swears as she got older, she has seen her curled up in a ball on her floor on occasion when she wakes up in the middle of the night, and will hear a random cry if she's in her room alone during the day. His sister always had pretty bad depression, and I do believe this spirit was contributing to that even unknowingly.